Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Mega Driving Club, a series all about driving games published by Sega or published on Sega consoles. In this episode, we're looking at Crazy Taxi Catch a Ride for the Game Boy Advance. A rather spectacular, if a little bit disappointing, attempt at porting Crazy Taxi to the Game Boy Advance. This was developed by Graphic State, and I've got to say they have done a pretty interesting job at bringing this across. So this is a full 3D Crazy Taxi game, apart from objects. So vehicles are sprites, and various sort of roadside objects like telephone boxes and things like that. But the entire city itself is rendered in full 3D. We don't have any of the sort of like reduced resolution that we had on the Sega Rally episode from last week. It's a very impressive little thing. What isn't particularly impressive is the speed in which it runs at. Now, Crazy Taxi is a very fast, very twitchy arcade driving game. This is not. It's very slow. It has a hard time keeping up with the amount of stuff that it's got on screen. It really suffers from just a lack of pace. There's no urgency to this, which is pretty bad considering this is supposed to be a Crazy Taxi game. It's lacking the one of the most important features about the game. But otherwise, it's pretty fully fleshed out. You still earn tips for dangerous driving next to cars and things like that, doing jumps. You can also do the crazy boost if you switch from reverse gear into drive gear and then hit the accelerator as soon as possible, so that's quite interesting. There is, quite a lot of dynamism to the actual gameplay itself. The stages are laid out as all, in a very sort of similar San Francisco-esque look, with the big hills and jumps as you go down the big hills. It's just, again, it's a very fully featured thing. It's almost there. It's just so slow and sort of unexciting, which is something that a Crazy Taxi game really should be. A bit of a shame that. The soundtrack also suffers. The Game Boy's sound chip Game Boy Advance sound chip is not particularly impressive to begin with, and here it's trying to emulate a sort of punk rock sound, very similar to the original Crazy Taxi, which featured obviously The Offspring and Bad Religion on the soundtrack. Which it doesn't even try to emulate the songs of the original game. It just goes for like a very sort of cliche, standard sounding punk rock soundtrack. But yeah, it's a bit grating because the sound chip of the Game Boy Advance doesn't do sort of guitars very well, unfortunately. So that's another sort of disadvantage of this, unfortunately. Yeah, this is a very difficult one to recommend. It's certainly worth checking out just because it's such an impressive piece of coding. I mean, to get something like this working on the Game Boy Advance is no mean feat. And, for the most part, this certainly works. It's just that it's so slow. Frame rate's really slow. It feels like you're driving through treacle a lot of the time, which is just not what you want from a Crazy Taxi game. If this was faster, more twitchy, more arcadey, you generally have a good time with it, to be honest with you. And again, it's very fully featured. You've got the crazy box as well, so you can do things like the missions where you do jumps and stuff. There's a lot going on here, I'm very impressed with the build quality of this. It's just the actual gameplay and action itself is lacking due to the reduced speed. So yeah, again, certainly worth checking out for, just how interesting a concept it is, but probably something you're not going to want to play for particularly long, just because it's not very exciting.
Okay. Yeah.